Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the REECHO Yusicon SG-01 Dawn edition. This is the third in this line of SG-01 IEMs. The first one was just the normal SG-01, then it was followed by the OVA, and now we've got the Dawn. Anyway, let me just quickly take you through the box. Very simple. Some information here in the back. As you can see, they mention the impedance, which is 34 ohms. They talk about a 10 millimeter dynamic driver, which uses a carbon nanofilm diaphragm, so I'm assuming a CNT diaphragm. 107 decibels of sensitivity, so I would say, let's say, average characteristics. Okay, anyway, you take away the sleeve, okay, and underneath, inside the box, it opens up like a book. You lift this lid up. Over here has the case. The IEMs came over there, and then we remove these two sponges, and then we still have, well, that there's nothing there, but inside here is some this would be nice if it would come out. There we go. Inside here there is some paperwork. Okay, and that's basically it. The case itself brings everything inside of it. Brings the cable, brings the tips. So simple. Actually, the SG-01, as some other REECHO products, they actually always bring simple but decent enough accessories, so can't really complain too much there. Anyway, let me just put this out of the way here. Okay, so that's that. The case, as I was mentioning, is the usual REECHO case. Okay, that's it. Okay, we have 3 sets of tips. We've got these black ones here, which are kind of like a normal bore. Then we have these white transparent ones, which are more wide bore. And then we have these ones here, which are like the KB07 tips. I'm actually using the large size on the IM. As for the colors available for the Dawn, there's 2 colors available. There's this black faceplate one, as you can see here, okay, and then there's this silver one with this is like a smoke color shell, and this one is like a silver shell with this kind of faceplate that it seems like water or something of the sort. The shell itself is exactly the same as the previous versions. I mean, the only thing that's changed is the faceplate. But if I take here the right hand side, for example, and I compare it here with the right hand side of the Dawn, the faceplate is different, but the shell itself, as you can see, is exactly the same. There's no difference in the shell. The locations of the ventings, everything is exactly the same. All right. Okay. Anyway, just continuing here on the shell. The shell is a metal shell. It fits nicely. No issues with the fitment. It's got a nice weight to it. It gives it a nice solid feel. And like I said, with the 07 the large size tips, it fits nicely, stays securely in my ears. I didn't really have anything to complain about. I guess physically there's really nothing more that I can say. It's a 2-pin connector. The cable is not a bad cable. I mean, this is a $50 IM. It's not a bad cable. It actually looks half decent. It's got nice tips. It's got a carrying case and everything. So, this is an example. And if you've watched my review of the T2 Mark II from HiFi, this is an example of something which costs $50 but brings a carrying case, brings a nice selection of tips, some of them even 07s, and a nicely built IM metal shell, with a solid look to it. Okay, what then did I bring out to compare here the SG-01 Dawn to? Well, obviously I can compare it with other IMs, but I thought it would make sense just to compare it basically with the original SG-01, the OVA, and then I brought out the SG-03S for fun. Okay, all of these IEMs, the Dawn included, have got a tuning which is kind of a 2018, 2019 tuning. And what do I mean by that? I mean, nice, strong, prominent bass. And then we have two peaks after the initial pinna gain. The peaks are situated anywhere between 2 and 2.5, and then the second peak anywhere between 4 and 5k. They're kind of situated there, drops off, and then some nice extension past 10k. They've got a signature which is kind of like the Blon 03, the original Blon 03, but just a little bit more energetic in the mids, upper mids, and treble, with more detail past 10k. But it's got that sort of a vibe of sound, so maybe not as dark, not that the 03 was dark in any way, but maybe not as warm as the 03, because the 03 did have this nice weight to its mid bass, which then gave this nice tonality, this very pleasing tonality to the 03. Not so much like that. It's got a little bit more detail in the the upper mids and treble especially, so it makes for more open sound. When I compare the original with the over, the difference is basically zero. I've got multiple sets, and in those multiple sets I always got the same difference, which is bass is basically the same, and then the above, let's say above 2k area, there's a slight amount of more energy on the over as compared to the original, but I'm talking about a difference of maybe at the very most a dB and a half. But the interesting thing is that it happened on both sets of the overs and on both sets of the normal SG-01. So that's why I'm saying that the difference is basically just there. If you've noticed, I've always been using the same tips on all of them to kind of try and make the results more coherent. As for the Dawn basically follows the same signature, just that it adds the bass. It adds a couple of dBs to the bass, about 3 dBs to the bass, and it adds as well a little bit more energy to the mids and upper mids and treble area. So in essence, what we end up with is apologies. As I was saying, so in essence, they've all got a very similar sound. The biggest difference being that then the Dawn has got more energy, and probably that's down to the fact that they are now using a carbon CNT diaphragm driver as opposed to the graphene driver, the graphene composite driver that was being used before in the original and in the over. That's in essence the difference that exists as far as I was able to ascertain with regards to the driver, and that difference in the driver does then translate to a difference in terms of the sound, but the difference is more a difference in terms of energy. When you actually listen to the IEMs, the difference is not as pronounced as you would perceive initially. Having said that, you do notice that the SG-01 is just ever so slightly less brighter than the over, but the difference is honestly not an easy the difference to pick up on. On very few occasions you can pick up on that, but you do notice that these two are a little bit, well, a little bit is I'm being nice. They are noticeably not as bright sounding as the Dawn is. However, the thing that actually caught my attention was that even though the Dawn is brighter, it's got more energy, it doesn't in any way reach a point where it's aggressive or harsh or over dominating in any part of the frequency range, which is actually something which already the original ones had. Fair enough, you could argue that the originals a little bit of a bass bleed, and maybe the mids were a little bit warmer than need be, but it was never offensive. It was never something which you would say, okay, this is spoiling things. No, the tuning was made to be fun and engaging and satisfying in that aspect, which was easily obtained, and they played well. It's as simple as that. And this one has just taken that a further step or two above. Do I think that there is enough difference on this one compared to the previous ones to justify you getting the newer one over the previous ones? Honestly, no. I don't think there's enough that justifies that. They do look nice with this new faceplate design. And if you haven't got any of the previous ones and you are looking for something along these lines, or you've had and you've sold and now you want to rebuy again, then I would say definitely yes, buy the Dawn. The Dawn will probably be the one that will ultimately be more satisfying. The interesting thing now as well, be it already with the older ones or with the new one, is they are, if you are obviously inclined for that, relatively easy to modify. And by using anything between from a 300 grade filter to a tanstrom oxygen filter, which is roughly a 450, you can get some very entertaining results. On these two, those results are a complete elimination of those peaks that I mentioned before, and a creation of a sound which is very much Harman. So if you like that, so it gives you a nice warm sounding Harman. While over here, I found that the 300 grade was probably the best compromise. That the oxygen filter here I found cut too much. And I just didn't, it's not that it sounded bad, it sounded good still, but I feel that the balance that I was able to obtain with the 350 at the very most grade filter on the Dawn, with relation into the extension that I still have past past 8K, and then to the extension I have in the lower frequencies, it was the nicest with that filter. As compared to the SG-03S, which also came out last year. The SG-03S is slightly more expensive, it's around $70. Yes, it does have the replaceable nozzles. I'm using the black nozzle on this particular one. I've actually got two 03Ss as well, and I actually also performed that mod on the filter. I changed the filter for an oxygen filter, which again I think just it's a mod that it's simple, but it makes sense because it does away with those peaks, and those peaks, although not problematic, there are certain songs and certain instruments that can come across just a little bit too intense, at least for a more prolonged listening. So I'm not going to say yes, go outright and do the mod. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if you do have these SG-01 or the SG-03S, and you for some reason you don't like, or you find it fatiguing or something, that mod will the putting that 300 grade filter, anywhere from 300 to 450 grade filter on the nozzle will help. I will call your attention to one thing, which is this has got a pretty big bore. It's almost 5 mm. So make sure that when you buy the replacement filter, I would suggest trying NSC audio store on AliExpress. Make sure you get the 5mm one so that they don't then fall in, because initially I didn't pay attention to that, and I bought some 4.5s and they just wouldn't grab on the edge, on the ledge that exists there on the actual body of the tip. So the nozzle does have an edge inside slightly, and if you don't choose the right one, the replacement filter will just fall inside. I guess you could place it over the top of this, but I did that and I didn't really like the result. So my rec is remove the filter completely that's on the nozzle and replace it with whatever filter that you want. And the same thing, like I said, all these three have got the same shell, the same thing. I would recommend doing that. I've actually already modified this one. If you look carefully, I've already got a black filter on there, okay, while this one still has the original filter in the nozzle, and that's basically it. I mean, even compared with the SG-03S, the difference in sound is not very big. They all have got the same sort of style of sound. The main difference, or the main thing that would perhaps attract you for the 03S, is the fact you got those replacement nozzles, so you can leave one nozzle basically in stock tune and then the other nozzle obviously modified, of course. That's it, guys. I'll just quickly now show you the graphs for the SG-01, and we'll wrap it up. All right. Hi guys, and welcome now to the REECHO SG-01 series graph section. This first graph that I'm showing you is the graph of the original SG-01. So as I was stating earlier, you can see nice prominent base with nice thick excuse me, mid base. Obviously some bleeding to the mids, you know, but then you got some good amount of energy here in the mids and upper mids, and so a peak at 2 to 2.5k, another peak at 4.5k, dip, and a couple related, and then some extension past 10k. So this is the original SG-01. Then we had the over, which was basically the same thing, as you can see, with just a slight increase of energy here, but nothing too outrageous. However, either one of them, when modified with the oxygen filter, what you end up with is the graph that I'm showing you now, in the last graph that I'm showing you now. So you may basically maintain the base, you do away with those peaks, and you still keep a nice amount of energy past 10k. So this is what you end up with, which is it's an interesting graph, and trust me, it actually sounds very interesting as well. Anyway, we start off, like I was saying, with the original SG-01, SG over, and now the Dawn. And what has the Dawn done? Well, because they've changed the driver, in essence, you've got a good 2-3 dBs extra on the base, and a good, depending on which model, 5 dBs almost of gain here in this area of the upper mids and treble. However, like I said as well earlier, the interesting thing is, although you've gained this much, it doesn't still the SG-01 doesn't sound overly aggressive or overly energetic, and it's basically down to the fact you got this monstrous amounts of bass. I mean, we are talking about a bass gain of roughly 11 dBs and a PINA gain of, so let me just confirm, 66, 81, so 15 dBs of gain for the upper mids and treble. Yes, I'm not going to deny that if you really crank up the volume, it doesn't get a little bit too intense. It does, but surprisingly not as bad as you would think with this sort of values of gain being thrown around. Again, if you do modify the Dawn like I did on the original and on the over, what you end up with is this, which in my opinion is nicer, because it loses some of that energy there in the upper mids, true, but it gains way more balance in terms of the overall sound presentation, and a better scalability, while in stock format the scaling is still decent. It's not that it's bad. The scaling, once modified, does become better. Anyway, compared to the SG-03S, the SG-03S does come available with those replaceable filters, which provide us with two tunings. So you get the tuning with the black filter, which is this one, and you get the tuning with the silver filter, which is not this one, which is this one. Let me actually change the color. Let me make it red so it can really stand out. So depending on whether you're using the silver or the black nozzle filters, you get these two different tunings, which again mainly focuses here on the upper mids and treble and extension. I personally feel that the nicest one is with the black nozzle, and if you look carefully, you will see that the difference between that, or the SG-03S with the black nozzle, and the Dawn is not as huge as you would think. It's got the same kind of premise as well. Nice intense sound, nice prominent V-shaped signature, and it sounds okay. Obviously, I had to modify it as well, and once modified, the results I was getting from the SG-03S are way more interesting. This is the SG-03S modified. You get a smidge more bass, but it just controls those two peaks much nicer, and you don't get them being overly energetic. Okay, the rest basically keeps itself in tabs. Look, the truth is this, the SG-01 is a nice IEM. It's always been a nice IEM. It's not an IEM that has pretensions of being the best IEM for monitoring or anything of the sort. It's a fun, engaging IEM. It's got that, like I said, that kind of blonde type of sound, and the Dawn has taken that yet another step forward. Whether it's better than the previous ones or not, I'll leave that decision to be made by you. Would I recommend it? Well, I would recommend it if what you are looking for is a nice, let's say, colored or a nicely done colored set. If that is what you want, then definitely yes. If you're looking for something which is going to be about balance and proper audiophile execution, then perhaps this is not the ideal set to go for. And that's it. Just for the sake of curiosity, I can quickly show you the Blonde 03 next to this, so just so that you guys can have an idea of what I'm talking about. Let me see. Leave this one here, will be fine. Let's bring it down. I believe this one. Yes, I think this one is about right. So, okay, so let's compare. This is the purple version of the Blonde. I actually, hold on, I've got a better one here. This particular purple version, graphed a little bit too different as compared to the others, and I've got a better 03 here that I can show you. There we go. Yeah, that's it. This is a better 03 here. Let me just bring it down. Take away the other one. Okay, so this is the Blonde 03, and as you can see, like I was mentioning earlier, you can see let me just take away some of the other graphs. Compared with the SG-01, the SG-01 has got that same sort of style of tuning. Loses a little bit in the ultimate bass, sub-bass extension, but it gives it a bit more liveliness here in the upper mids and treble. And it was very noticeable. While the Blonde was, more warmer sounding, the SG-01 has always been a more lively sounding IM, but that liveliness doesn't come at the cost of it then becoming aggressive or over. Now, yes, it is energetic. It can become fatiguing depending on what you're listening, but it's well done. It's one of those things that you can't really explain. I guess the quality of the driver is important. I guess to a certain extent what they've done to the tuning is also important, but it actually is fine. And that's it, guys. Hope I was able to give you guys a good idea of what the SG-01 Dawn is about. And that's it. I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Take care now. Bye-bye.